We are frustrated by politics. Political gridlock, the longest government shutdown in United States history, Brexit. These breakdowns came from politicians unwilling to work with one another. I've heard some people blame the rise of political incivility on the increase in commercial air travel. As politicians were able to more freely travel between the capital and their home, they didn't have to uproot their families and move. It's a lot harder to refer to somebody who you're having a disagreement with as evil when your kids are having a play date in the next room. I'm not so sure how much blame I'm willing to place on airplanes. I think our society has stopped celebrating negotiation. I'm a conflict resolution professional. I'm a mediator, an attorney, a consultant. If I had a nickel for every time somebody came up to me and said, "Hey, can we send you to Washington so you can fix those guys?" I'd have a lot of nickels. It also wouldn't work. The reason that it wouldn't work is politicians have lost the incentive to negotiate. And the rules have also changed, making it harder to negotiate. Through gerrymandering, many politicians are not worried about a general election challenger, someone from across the political aisle challenging them. These districts are safe. And instead of a general election challenger, they have to be worried about a challenger from within their own party. They get out-liberaled or out-conservatived. And one of the fastest ways to do that is to be seen working with the enemy. This has led to a race to the political extremes and a polarization in our communities. But negotiation is not working with the enemy. In its simplest definition, negotiation is give and take, hoping to reach an agreement or a compromise. It's give and take. Politicians have the job of allocating resources amongst programs in our society. They don't always agree which programs to fund or how much funding they should receive. But this is where negotiation should come in. This is where negotiation used to come in. Two politicians get together to talk about a particular bill. In order to gain the support from one of the politicians, they were willing to add a line that would fund the pet project of the other politician. This is commonly known as an earmark or pork. Now, I will admit, pork spending has gotten out of control from time to time. Pay-to-play scandals, the bridge-to-nowhere scandals have been seen all over the world. But instead of dealing directly with those bad actors, in 2007 they changed the rules to do away with the process of earmarks completely. Last year, my wife and I, for my birthday, were lucky enough to go see the musical Hamilton. Thanks, Mom. One scene in particular really caught my attention. Alexander Hamilton, A.Ham for short, was at odds with who I found out is actually my 8th cousin, Thomas Jefferson, and James Madison. Well, this was before airplanes. So Thomas Jefferson invited Madison and Hamilton to his house for dinner. Well, this is the room where it happened. Don't worry, I'm not going to sing. But these three political rivals went into a room, and nobody really knows what happened in there. What we know is what happened after. Those three came out with an agreement. They found a way to negotiate. Not because they were in agreement walking in, but because they were willing to negotiate with one another. And what they came out with was the Compromise of 1790. The federal government would assume the state's Revolutionary War debts, and this was something that Alexander Hamilton was passionate about. On the other hand, there was an agreement to move the capital of the United States from New York City, Alexander Hamilton's hometown, to just outside of Virginia, which is where both Jefferson and Madison were from, a place we now call Washington, D.C. These historical giants were able to reach common ground not because they walked in with an agreement, but because they were willing to negotiate. And this ability is still being celebrated through song today. Unfortunately, now, politicians aren't negotiating, they're fighting. They come up with campaign slogans that, "I'm going to fight for you." Some are even resorting to childish behavior, saying, "Vote for my bill, or else." We must be wary of electing only those politicians who are willing to fight. Fighting is absolutely a form of conflict resolution. I have 3 kids. Sometimes it seems like the only one they know. But by electing politicians who are only willing to fight, we continue to increase the division in our society. We need to embrace and elect people who are willing to negotiate for us. We need to change the rules back to allow negotiation in politics. And we need to hold those people accountable for those negotiations. Most of us are familiar with the saying by poet John Godfrey Saxe, comparing the making of laws to the making of sausage. I'm from the Midwest. I can tell you, pork makes great sausage. We have been divided by our current politics. But following this recipe, we can heal the divide and our democracy by working together. Thank you.